these people was already the vehicle that he was using. Most Luhya leaders who want to run for presidency are not running for president on their own volition, but in partnership with other people, or finding themselves in a place where now they're almost there, but they're not yet there. They're not coming out in time to run for presidency. And because they've not had a strong presidential candidate, that voting bloc has been divided. Remember, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga used to get the entire Luo support because he was always running for president. As a community, they need to have a strong presidential candidate so that they can be unified. If not, they will vote however they want. Number two is Luhyas have many parties, or rather Luhya community have many parties. And some of these parties is also, emanating from their communities, whether they are, whether they are, the number of tribes within the Luhya community. As we say the Luhya community, we also know that there are a number of tribes in there. And some of those tribes, because of their culture, they're always together and they don't want to sometimes, vote in the same pattern as the other communities that perhaps they see in a different way. Number three is there have been senior politicians in the Luhya community that have always been self-seeking. They've been about themselves, I and myself. And as a result, the community have been thinking that you're not fighting for us. Once you get something, you're gone. You don't come back here to really, do development with us. And that strong man, also, number four, is the strong man of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who was just a neighbor there and had a lot of influence in the Luhya community. And in fact, there are also some facts that he has some roots in the Luhya community. And because he was always running for president, the Luhyas felt that the presidency was near them with Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, by them having nobody else. And as a result, you could not perhaps, just wish him away in the western part of Kenya. He was there, and if he stood, no one else will dare stand against him. And as a result, he will get votes from Western Kenya. The question that we want to ask ourselves now is who stands in the place of Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who can get votes both from the Luo community, the Kisses community, and also the western part of Kenya. But that needs a lot of work, and it also needs a lot of track record. It also needs consistency. It also needs the buying of this community as a single individual, and that sometimes needs a lot of resources as well as people behind you. Remember, one of the things that Raila Amolo Odinga did well is to build a party that had a grassroots structure that even UDA do not have, that even many parties do not have. As a result, those structures were also embedded in western part of Kenya. And as a result, it was very, very difficult to have a presidential candidate that could be compared or even be near Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Now he's not there. Perhaps the only person that we have that could also be able to unify people through ODM is the party leader of the ODM in this case. Leaders for themselves,
who's the party leader?
Burodinga?
Who's the party leader?
The party leader for ODM is Honorable Burodinga.
Is the one who's going to be doing these things that you talk about?
No. What I'm saying is perhaps the only person that could be seen to do that by the mere fact that ODM is still having a very strong hold in Western Kenya is the party leader of ODM.
Okay.
Because if you look at how many votes, how many members of parliament are in Western Kenya, ODM has a bigger chunk of MPs than any other party in that region.
Sifuna has been christened to embody the style, the charisma of one Raila Amolo Odinga, based on how he's even moving in terms of his campaigns through the Linda Mwananchi. You see him go to other areas first, speak to Kenyans across the country. He just came from his Linda Mwananchi homecoming in Bungoma. And with that, he continues to say, I will continue speaking to Kenyans before my announcement is made. And many would say he is seemingly uniting the Luhya community behind him, as well as other regions who are saying, we identify with Sifuna. Are we also looking, would one be wrong to say that what we are seeing with Sifuna is the people who are making him be who he is. It is the people who are making him be greater than many would be other leaders from the Luya community who have been in the game for a very long time. Are the people making Sifuna be greater in Western region?
We have something called United Opposition now.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Sifuna, who says, Mimi ni Sifuna. As to whether he's part of this United Opposition, no one knows. Or as to whether he's working in such a way that one day he joins the United Opposition, nobody knows. As to whether he wants to be Mimi ni Sifuna by himself and form his own vehicle, devoid of this other opposition, congregation, no one knows. Now, that's what makes his quest for presidency a little bit elusive. Because what I'm looking at now is if I am rallying, I want people to rally behind me for a position in 2027. I would rather stand out there and say, Mimi ni Sifuna, but I'm an independent candidate and I'm going to run for president. Or Mimi ni Sifuna, but we are planning so that we make so and so the president of this country.
So maybe that's what makes everybody uncomfortable, because he's not saying it, and the people are actually not ready for what could come if he does. And I'm going to ask a question that I asked earlier. There seems to be something very scary about people not knowing, and because you want to know, then you imagine that the idea could be less potent because you do not know. Because what we don't know sometimes scares us, doesn't it? So is there a possibility that because people don't really know, and that there's a possibility that this thing could come and actually sweep the nation, then it's a bit uncomfortable?
Not really. Not really.
Because you want to know, you've said, we want to know now if he's going to be president. We want to know now which party he's going to run on. We want to know now who he's going to, we want to know now if the grassroots are going to be. And what it does is that it gives you a kind of certainty and a kind of comfort. And we don't like being uncomfortable, do we?
No. Raila Amolo Odinga, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
He said Kibaki Tosha.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew that he was the one going to run for president.
Mm-hmm.
Kibaki became the president.
Mm-hmm.
We want to figure out whether Sifuna will be the guy who wants to say Michael Tosha, and then everybody votes for you.
Why?
Or he runs for
Because
the
from that
position.
example that you've just given,
Yeah.
Raila Odinga didn't say 2 years before that he's going to say Kibaki Tosha. For the whole time.
Yeah.
For the whole time he knew he
He had
was
a
going to be
history
president.
behind him of
But then
many years.
Yeah, but
that is
he's-
why people could trust him. for
Yeah,
that
but
reason.
he'd been saying he was going to be
And
president, and
then-
people believed that he was going to actually run for president.
Sure
But
enough.
at the moment,
Sure enough.
3 months to the election,
Yeah.
he said Kibaki Tosha, and people went with him. If you're going to use that same example, you didn't know.
No.
You had no idea.
No. When Raila said Kibaki Tosha, he knew that the Luos and the Luyas will vote for him because they voted for him before.
But the point
for
here being that the
presidency, okay?
people did not, the
So-
point here being,
Yeah.
that the people that we're still talking about right now did not know that Raila Odinga was going to say Kibaki Tosha.
Correct.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is he said Tosha, and it happened simply because he had a voting bloc behind him that had been tested and he was sure will back him. The question that everybody will ask, if he is going to be a kingmaker, which voting bloc is he having as a kingmaker? Are you understanding that? Now, if he's going to run for president, then he needs to figure out, but where am I going to get these votes? Because presidency alone cannot be delivered by Mulembe nation. That we know for a fact that, in fact, that is a matter we are discussing here, is fragmented in terms of how they vote. Many parties, maybe not having a presidential candidate, maybe having leaders that have been, really there for some times and are not resonating with the people. You understand this? So as a result, we are saying, look, if you do not have a vehicle and you're not saying what you want, then maybe you're just having fun. Maybe you're just having fun to see whether people are going to turn out and hear what you're saying and collect some little money out of it. All this can happen. And you might think they're really, really beautiful. But I'm repeating the same thing I said. Look, these guys that are coming to his rallies are UDA, some of them are ODM, some of them are Ford Kenya, some of them are all manner of people that are registered in different parties. We've not seen people en masse registering or deregistering from a certain party and saying we are joining Sifuna.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have it yet.
Yep. But then again, there is the Monanchi as well, because if let's leave the political class, let's listen to what Wananchi is saying, right? And the people who are actually saying Sisi Sifuna are Kenyans who show up to listen to what he's saying, are Kenyans who are giving him the pressure, one would say, to even run for the presidency. It is Kenyans who are telling him, we want to listen to you because you are speaking our language. Now, in all this equation, in all this conversation, one asks the question, why are we leaving the Monanchi away from the equation, yet they are the ones who are coming with the demands? Does that then change the game for Sifuna or for any other candidate out there? Because Monanchi is seemingly standing with Sifuna and not anybody else.
I think what you're saying is where we all need to be. That when given an opportunity, we want to listen to every politician in this country and hear what they have for us. And I think they're doing the right thing. Attend those rallies to hear what Sifuna wants to offer them. After which, they make a decision whether to support Sifuna in his position or not. And that should happen to every political party in this country. And I am not saying this because, I'm thinking that a lot of people are going there. No. I am saying this because I really think that every politician must be put to task to tell the people what he wants to do for them. The question that you need to ask yourself is, when you're going around the country, then is your constituency the entire country? That means then you are either building only for two things. You're either building a political party, that is why you'll go all over the country, or you want to run for president. Okay? Now, then you need to be very clear that I'm here, but I'm not here just to jazz you with a lot of stories, just to jazz you with what is happening and what I want to do, but I am here so that I need your support. I need your support for this position. And to me, that is really, really key. So that you can see how many people are going to run from their parties they're registered in and say, look, I am going to register in his party, or I am going to support him in his quest. And I'm not saying that Sifuna cannot amount to be a presidential candidate. He can. But the question you need to ask yourself is, how does he want to sustain this narrative so that everybody can listen to him, but not just listen to him, follow him on what he wants. If he's not clear for now, and the story tomorrow might change, just as you said, it might change if he wants to do something and people feel resonated with it and people want to support him, they will. But for now, no one knows what Sifuna wants. And that makes us in this precarious situation. We are discussing Mulembe Nation, but the only known factors there is there's ODM, there's Ford Kenya, there's, I think there's a money party there. And some
does
other
Amani still exist?
Amani left.
Amani left.
Amani left the group.
Left the group. Those are still very strong entities in Western Kenya. And because he has not had a pie of this, we can't say that those crowds are his.
How much of a shake-up is he to even the established political parties with what he is doing? Because you look at Sifuna and you think about the majority of the population, the young people who identify with him. And if he can change these crowds, that support into votes, just how big a shake-up is he making, or a dent is he making in not only just the western part of the country, but to the entire country?
I would probably say once Sifuna gets a vehicle and we see this maintained crowd, Sifuna definitely will be on the table for discussion. That I see happening. But for now, without a vehicle or anything, no one wants to bring you on the table. Because your followers have not made a decision on what you want. Neither have they made a decision to follow you with your vehicle. That's how I look at it strategically. Because if we talk about Sifuna now and we don't know what he wants, then when he declares that this is what I want, and people say, oh, you still want to go to run for Nairobi Senate, then why were you coming all over the country? You know what I mean, as an example. So when he decides that this is what I want, then we can see the sustained group of people now going and saying we are committed to it. We can see registration perhaps in another party, because they've insinuated a possibility of having a party, but that is not there. Well, no, here now, because it's not been announced, it's not been declared. No one knows what it is. I stand by talking about today. tomorrow might change. And if he organizes himself very, very well, Sifuna will be on the table for discussion.
I want to go back to, because you mentioned, I mean, in this, how many parties do we have coming out of this part of the country? I mean, we can count them, and we may not even have enough. But that everybody seems to want to be part of something, but that is not unified in purpose. And that has been the case. I remember, maybe having not been here, but remember that there was a time when Raila Odinga had a conversation with Musalia Mudavadi, and he basically said, bring them as one number and we'll crack this thing. But it never really happened. What is the problem there? Because in terms of population, they've got the numbers, but there seems to be unity of purpose still far away. Why is that?
Well, we have the Banyores, you have the Bukusus, you have the different little communities. They have different cultures. They have fear and respect and, to one another.
Maybe our assumption is even wrong that they should be uniting. It could be a wrong assumption in the first place. Sorry.
But I also think as a strategy, it's also been for survival purposes. So that if that individual is out of government, remember that we've had Musalia Mudavadi at the last moment running to Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. You remember at one point? And then we also had, Wetangula running his own party very, very quickly and joining, Honorable William Somaya Ruto. We've had politicians that are strategically placed. So you stay there. In ODM, just in case we get it, we are part of it. But by the way, these guys are very good friends. At the end of the day, they're very, very good friends. And you stay in Jubilee or UDA or whatever it is. So if you get it, we are also part of the system. I think it is also a strategy just to make sure that we are not left out 100%. That we can be part of any government that is formed in this country. And they've done very, very well with it. I mean, Western is absolutely, if you look at it in terms of road network and some of the development that are taking place there, they've really benefited quite a bit from the government. But I really think it is so critical for this government to get the votes in Western. The strategy on how they want to get those votes from Western as a bloc is what they need to use now. The only hiccup that perhaps we are seeing here, and I agree with you on this, once Sifuna makes his announcement on whether he will be running for president or not, then we have people have now to discuss on how you want to get those votes as well. Or if you are resolving that you're not getting those votes, then you need to figure out where you're going to get those equivalent votes that Sifuna is going to go away with.
The Luhya vote has never been united. Even Raila Odinga tried, but he never really got it entirely. Now we look at even those who belong to the community have not managed to bring the entire batch in one basket. With Sifuna right now, many are also asking the question because you also have other parties there who are also taking their share. With a united Western bloc, what would that mean to anyone who's running for presidency if he has all the votes backed?
You have a huge voting bloc because Western Kenya have always voted in the same pattern with the Luo Nyanza, the southern part of Kenya. You look at it. So in terms of strategic planning for votes, you want to make sure that even if you don't get 100%, which is impossible, even in a mountain, Mount Kenya, even if you get maybe 90% or 80%, you're sure that you're also going to leverage with more votes from this southern Nyanza. And that is the Luo counties as well as the Kisii counties. They've always voted as a bloc. And that also is transferred all the way to Nairobi. And you see that their voting pattern in Western Kenya is brought to Nairobi and they vote in a similar manner in Nairobi here. That's why you have a lot of members of parliament in Nairobi being more from the opposition more than the government. They've always tried to vote opposition. Now, I don't know exactly how the government is going to crack this, but it's something that have to be discussed. As to whether you are going to use some of these political, all politicians that have been there. I'm not saying that old in terms of age, but the ones that have run the show in Western Kenya, and hope that you're going to get a huge chunk of votes from them. That needs to be discussed because with the entrance of Natembeya and Sifuna, you need to figure out whether these people are going to continue holding on to the traditional old politicians or senior politicians in that region, or they're going to move to some of these newbies that are also speaking their language. You know, it's very funny that a number of these politicians, once they're elected, they make a home in Nairobi and then they don't go back home. But counties have made it such a way that the governors, especially if I can mention Governor Natembeya, being really in the village and working with the people and walking with the people, and it resonates with the people. At that point, you will rule him out at your own peril. And so these are some of the individuals and the dynamics that have come up that needs to be looked into. You still need votes from Western. You may not get exact number you want, but you still have to invest there to get the votes there.
Yeah.
Okay. Even as we look at obviously there's still a lot in terms of conversation that needs to be had. And at this point, we have to come to the end of this conversation at this point, but still want to look into still a lot of engagement that needs to happen. We want to thank you for being here with us this morning to have this conversation with us, Michael Asante Sana, and as we talk again. Good morning, folks. We get to talk with you, dear Mr. President. Good morning, 9 a.m.